Hi, and welcome to a really special episode of Makers Monday. Right now, I actually am on a plane rushing to the US with a whole bunch of little makers as we're about to go and spend some time practicing maker culture and STEM at NASA, both in Houston and at US Space Camp. So I thought this would be an amazing time to not only introduce a maker, but someone who I've come across many times when I request interviews for Makers Monday. There's lots of people out there who are incredible makers but don't feel comfortable stepping into the limelight. This week I interviewed one of them on the agreement that he would stay anonymous. And in a way, he might be speaking on behalf of all those makers who would like to share their story but don't feel comfortable being identified as a maker. So this week, we get to be introduced to the Anonymous Maker. Before we have a conversation with the Anonymous Maker, I would really love to invite you to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any other Maker Monday interviews and hear the inspiring stories of makers from all around the world or other maker videos on this channel. So as I mentioned before, we're going to speak to the Anonymous Maker, possibly the little maker inside each and every one of us. Normally I ask them to introduce themselves, but I guess this time I'm not going to get a name. So, Anonymous Maker, how do you define yourself?
Hey Gil, thanks for having me on. The way I define myself, and most of the makers that I meet in suburbia and places, you'd basically call the back streets of the maker community, where people are not trying to put themselves out there and so much as showing off or anything. It's more a case of, I enjoy making for the pleasure of giving somebody something or helping them solve a problem. My name is unimportant. What it is about me is that I'm a maker because I love to make things. There's a part of the process that is rewarding, but there's a result that you get out of making things that's even more rewarding. And I love the idea of making something that solves somebody else's problem or just makes their life a little bit easier or just a little bit happier. I enjoy making for the sake of making, but for the sake of helping people as well. And I don't necessarily want the accolades, the recognition. I don't want the limelight, because I want to make under my terms. I want to be able to make what I want to make and when I want to make it, and not have requests, not have people come to me and say, oh, can you make this? Or can you do this for me? Or I need this. So I enjoy making for people that can't make something for themselves, either because they don't know how, or they don't have the facilities, or they don't even realise that they need something that I've made for them.
It's really admirable the way you're actually creating things, but kind of from an anonymous perspective, as opposed to what I've seen and what I've been a part of, which is by making something, allowing someone to experience what we've actually created, it becomes an adjunct. It becomes almost like an add-on to how I explain what I'm most passionate about. But that doesn't really exist with what you do. And again, that I think is a really interesting take. It just shows you how flexible the maker framework can actually be. So it seems to me that you've got all these little small projects that you give out and that you try to help augment people in their everyday life. What is the last project that you actually worked on that you actually expressed yourself this way?
A simple piece of dowel with two slots cut in the ends. Takes me about a minute and a half to make each one. I put about 25 in a bag, and I go and take them to one of the butcher's shops in the area, because the plastic bags that the butchers use are oftentimes fairly well loaded with a couple of kilos of meat, and a frail-aged lady or man who buys some stuff from the butchers, the bag will cut through their fingers quite quickly, quite easily. So I make a little handle and I let the butcher hand them out to the people that need them. simple idea, really easy to make. Nobody needs to know that it's me that made them. Solves a problem that's been around for years and puts a smile on somebody's face. The other thing that I like to make is gifts that I'll sometimes just put on a picnic table in a public place with a note that says, "This is a gift from the universe. If you take it, please pay it forward. Make something and give it to somebody else. And help to make the world a better place by being a better maker." I make these dowel handles on the table saw using just a crosscut sled, and it takes me about maybe 2 minutes to cut the dowels to length, and in total, all of them, and then lower the blade enough, and then twist the dowel onto the blade just very carefully and safely, and cut the grooves in the ends, and then just hit the ends, the ends with the sandpaper, and it's done. It's simple. It's a very simple but helpful project. And there's plenty of other things that are easy enough to make. Well, I started off making lots of them on the lathe, and they'd take me 15 minutes each because I had to get them perfect on the lathe. And I'd make these fancy handles with little grooves and enough grooves for the fingers, and I'd make them different diameters, and I'd do all the fancy stuff, and I loved doing it, absolutely loved it. But they were so unique and so intricate that it wasn't possible to just hand them out like lollies. But so it became more, it became more of a communication, as you put it, where there was a bit of a story behind it, and I had to be involved in that story. And since working out that I can just make lots of them on the table saw and just hand them out, it's regained my anonymity. I get to make things because I enjoy making them. I get to share them because I enjoy sharing them. But I get to avoid the accolades and the pat on the back and the stuff that I'm not all that keen to have.
It's really interesting, the story that you're sharing with us right now. And in fact, I was thinking about it as you were sharing it, and it's really interesting the take that you have. And it shows you the vast area that you can go when you're actually making a maker project. Because these little wooden dowel handles that you're making for shopping bags, they're really cheap, they're really easy and quick to make. But for the people who need them, because they may be a little bit older, or they may have overloaded their bag, it's priceless that you're able to provide that for these people in the moment of their need. And again, that's answering a question that I love about makers and maker culture, which is, are you answering a question? Not only are you doing that, you're doing that in a really, really powerful way. And in fact, I've started, even when you were talking about it, I was starting to think about how can I simplify some of my projects. A lot of the projects that I see on YouTube are incredible, and they're such great craftsmanship, but they're not fast. So again, maybe we're taking our skills and trying to refine them, but maybe there's opportunities just to step back and quickly create a solution and be able to share it to the masses. Thank you so much. You've definitely got me thinking. It sounds to me like you have a number of different projects and a number of different skills, but do you have a special tool that you like to kind of fall back on, or something that you go to a lot for these sort of projects?
No, absolutely not. The one thing that I can say about me and my making journey is that I don't mind whether I'm using a lathe, a table saw, a laser cutter, a CNC, an embroidery machine, a sewing machine, a 3D printer. I even pick up a piece of paper and fold an origami crane from time to time. And just the fact that I'm making something, There's something amazing about handing an origami crane to a kid that's crying in a pram in a shopping centre. You just walk past and hand it to the mum and say, here, maybe this will help. And they hand it to a 2 or 3 or 4-year-old that's just having a bad day. And it's amazing. You don't you don't have to focus on a particular machine to realise that making is the process of solving a problem.
It sounds like you're a bit of a jack of all trades, and I can totally understand that. And again, kudos to you in the way you're actually expressing it. It's incredibly powerful. You know, it sounds like to me that you have done incredible work across a large amount of charitable projects. But do you have one project over all of them that really stands out as maybe one of your favorite?
Oh, absolutely, but it's one that I'm hesitant to share with the world. I love the fact that I've done it. I love the fact that I got involved with it, and I love the reach that it had and the effect that it had. And I would love to never have anybody know that it was me who made them. But I loved making braille erasers. A very simple idea. You make a pointy stick on a lathe. You make a pointy stick that's just enough of a point that will erase a mistake that's made when somebody's typing with a braille typewriter, a brailler. And you can make it as fancy as you need to or as you want to. You can put flat sides on it. You can do off-centered turning on the handle. You can do anything you like. And it doesn't matter what colour it is. The person who's using it is blind, mostly. But you make something like that for somebody who's not going to be able to make it themselves. You know, there is a blind wood turner, but there's very few blind wood turners. And making a braille eraser for one person is great, but making a bunch to give to the teachers that look after the kids and teach them how to use the braille typewriter and teach them about using braille right from the very start, that was amazing to be able to help them. And there's plenty of other things like that. I've been involved with all types of projects like sensory walls for special needs schools, adult size rocking horses for kids with autism. I've been involved with cribs for stillborn babies. I've been involved with all types of projects that will help people get through parts of their lives that just need that little bit of help that's not economically viable for mass production. And it's amazing to know that I've touched people's lives without having to stand there and go, I want money, or I want fame, or I want this for it. There's something awesome about just going in, helping somebody and walking away and knowing that I've done a great job. I've done something worthwhile. And that's all I need to do is know that it's been worthwhile.
Everything that I'm getting from what we're sharing right now is about this ability to help people. Even in your favorite project, what you're expressing is this kind of ability to help people with whatever their challenge is, and do it in such a way where the focus is not on you as someone delivering an answer, but actually answering the need. And I must say that from my perspective, there's huge lessons in that. In fact, I thought I did a really good job in being able to share my skills with people, but in hearing your story, I think that I can actually maybe take that up a few notches and be able to supply an answer and take a big step back. So thank you again for sharing your favorite project. I know that even hearing you talk about it, how personal it was. You've crossed a lot of projects and it sounds to me use a lot of tools and a lot of skills, but is there one skill above everything else that you would love to learn?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to be able to do some metalwork, specifically welding, but because of some other issues, I can't actually work with metal. Um, and it's amazing how when you're forced to have a restriction for medical reasons, my problem is for medical reasons. When somebody tells me I can't do something, it's when I want to do it the most. Yeah, it would be nice to find a way of actually just moving past the restrictions and finding a way of doing everything. But if you don't work within your restrictions and you don't follow the guidelines set out by the medical profession, you end up causing yourself some other grief. And every now and then you need to realise that there are limitations, but there are good reasons for some of those limitations, and pushing yourself too hard is not necessarily the best thing for you.
I can totally understand where you're coming from. You know, recently I went on a journey learning to use a welder and use metalwork, and there's something really humbling about the idea of what you create will definitely kind of exist well past when you've left the planet. This is something you have the potential with metalwork to create stuff that will definitely outlive yourself and hopefully be able to communicate and share with generations that are not even here now. So I really hope that you are able to experience that and get past whatever medical condition you have, because it is an incredible skill to learn. And in fact, it's so different from woodworking or like 3D printing or anything like that I've done before, to be able to work with a material that lasts so long. So I really wish, and if there's anything that I can do to help facilitate that, I would love for you to have that experience. It's a pretty amazing thing.
The one thing that I'd like to share, the one thing that I'd love to share with everybody is that the maker journey, the idea of making, the idea of sharing something that you make is most important to me. It's not just about making, it's not about making something for yourself, it's not about the process, it's about the whole journey. It's the destination and the project are all part of it. I think the one thing I'd like to say to everybody is, if you're ever given an opportunity to make something for somebody, and just give it to them without them knowing about it, without expecting anything in return, and walk away knowing that you've done something to help somebody who couldn't help themselves as well as you've helped them, you'll sleep better at night knowing that you've done something good for somebody.
Anonymous Maker, I want to thank you for joining us here today on Makers Monday. I know that it's been a big journey to get you onto this show, and I really want to thank you for giving a voice to all those people out there who, for whatever reason, couldn't find it within themselves to be actually able to put themselves in front of the camera or share their story. I have a feeling there are a lot of people who will connect with your story and elements of your story who may not be at that point where they can take that step forward to bring their story and bring their identity along with that. So I want to really thank you for that, and I want to thank you and everyone out there who have joined us today to hear your story. Thank you so much, Anonymous Maker, and I really want to hear all about the projects that you do in the near future, and hopefully we can even share them here. Thank you so much. It's been an incredibly humbling interview. Okay, so while I'm on a jet with a whole lot of little makers flying to the US, I would love for you to reach out and maybe be inspired by this interview and share your story on Makers Monday. That's one of the things that I love about this program. It's all about meeting and hearing those individual stories, and even more so, for me, why you guys are making in the first place. Is this a skill that maybe you learned with your parent or your father? Was it something that you came across yourself? What is it that drives you to create and make? And that is why, for me, I've been bringing stories like this to my YouTube channel. I've got to be honest with you, I'm kind of a little bit flummoxed because you know what? anonymous maker really touched me in a way that I didn't expect. This has to be one of the better interviews that I've done, and I guess we're at a place where I can actually express that to you directly. So if you're interested in jumping on board, taking a step, maybe moving out of your comfort zone a little bit, I'm more than happy to help you as much as I can to share your story on Makers Monday. Okay, so before I head off, I'm going to make one last request. If you haven't done so before, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so I can share this type of interview with you in the near future. You know what? I'm gonna take a moment now and actually really contemplate what was shared by Anonymous Maker and see what I can actually do in the next week to be able to help make someone's life a little bit better using my maker skills. I would love for you to join me on that, and if you do, tell us below. I would love to hear if this really resonated with you. Okay, that's it. I will see you back here for another maker in 7 days. Till then, go make something and enjoy yourself.